Hey y'all, thank you for joining me on another video. I am so sorry that it has been over 3 months since my last video. Since I made that last video in March on my Independence Day, oh my goodness, a lot has happened. Basically going from one traumaversary to another, to another, to another. And some of these, I didn't even remember. Some of them, I mean, I'm not saying they're repressed memories. There's studies that show both ways that repressed memories exist, and some say they don't. But these were things that I had never even thought of as anything dealing with trauma. But then when the full memories started coming up, yeah, they were like mini traumas in the midst of big traumas. As some of you may know, and as I'm learning, when it comes to trauma and going through the memories are actually fragmented. There's a science to it. I can't explain it fully, but there's a science to it that the memories fragment, and you don't always remember little bits and pieces. You just remember like generalities. And this is what started happening is the little bits and pieces are starting to show. Oh my. At one point I was talking to my therapist, and I told him that it felt like I would just get up. I was floating in water. I would get up above water, start breathing, get my lungs filled again, doing really well. Then bam, a shark pulls me under, and I'm trying to gasp for air again. That's how it felt. Because just when I thought I would get over one hump or hurdle, I'd have to cross another one. And I mean, all of these traumaversaries were blindsiding me. And these were fragmented memories that were associated with already current traumaversaries. It was just basically adding more issues to the story of each traumaversary, if that makes sense. For example, the anniversary of the rape was on June 14th. Well, as I've stated in previous videos, I became acquainted with the rapist 2 weeks before on Memorial Day, when he confronted me at a local convenience store and acted like he knew me. And because of putting pieces together, I realize now that he was stalking me for at least a month or two. But anyway, I remember after our altercation on Memorial Day, when I beat the daylights out of him, because he grabbed my butt. I remember for that 2 weeks before he raped me, I was feeling uneasy. I was feeling nervous, like I was always being watched. I realize now that chances are it was him watching me. And I remember that uneasy feeling, not like it being alone in my house at night when my father was off at work. And then I started remembering even before that altercation on Memorial Day, I was uneasy and not wanting to be alone. So that's what makes me also think that he had been stalking me for a while. But those feelings of feeling like I was being stalked, they started coming up again. They had never come up. Not ever, even from the very beginning. I guess, and my therapist seems to agree, that the reasoning for that was probably because the bigger picture was rape, and so of course dealing with that took precedence over the nuanced feeling, so to speak, if that makes sense. But that feeling that I had felt for those 2 weeks, I had never dealt with that because it never came up in, how I processed everything. So it was kind of way back in a deep closet, so to speak. And I guess my mind is starting to clean out that closet. That's about as near as I can tell. And then, a totally different memory came up that I had never dealt with, dealing with when my kids were in foster care. About a situation where my ex, we were about ready to get the kids back. We had we had done everything the state wanted us to do, and they had already said, okay, we're going to start working on phasing them back in home. And it's like, wonderful. Then my ex, in wanting to take any possible spotlight off of him and put it on me, threw me under the bus, so to speak, and started saying that I made him feel suicidal, that he felt like he didn't want to live on this earth because I was such a terrible wife, and on and on and on and on and on, confessing to her as you would a friend, all to try to get the spotlight off of him and put it on me. Now, this caseworker was not the most upstanding at this point. I am told this caseworker has since changed, but that remains to be seen. Point being, caseworker was already bent on moving the kids permanently for whatever unknown reason. This was the fuel that the caseworker needed to keep the kids away even longer. His mental health issues. Because deep down she knew that I wasn't the main problem. I had my own issues. I was definitely not perfect. And I was abusive too in ways to my kids. So I am not going to say that I was innocent. However, he was the main issue as to why they were keeping the kids away. And they knew that he was the bigger issue. But they just used what he said to get what they wanted. And I had not forgotten that memory over the years, because I often talked about it. But this past year in June, because it was around the middle of June when it happened. I couldn't even tell you today consciously. On the day that I felt that, was around middle June, and memory serves me right, it was about then. So, the memory just popped up, and I started getting uptight, my body started reacting, I started getting angry, and I couldn't figure out why. And then when that memory came up, because I'm thinking, okay, what's going on? I recognized the signs, I knew it was some sort of traumaversary or something. And then when that came up, I'm like, holy moly! And because when he told me, he told the caseworker all of what he did, it was one of the few times that I actually stood up to him. Because I was so furious. Because I had been trying to paint a picture of he and I as a united front and working together and everything. And then he says this. And I just looked at him and I'm like, you do realize now that our kids are going to be gone longer. That we're not going to be getting them back in a month or two like they were saying at the meeting. And he looked at me with a contorted, angry look and like, that's all you care about. I'm like, they're our kids. Yeah, I care about it. And, sorry y'all, I did an online grocery order and they were texting me asking me a question. But it's like, yeah, of course I was concerned about our children, getting our children back. Isn't that what we're fighting for? But evidently in his mind, it was more important to try to take any light off of him, any bad light off of him. So that was another memory that came up quite randomly. And then the biggest new memory that came up that was a total shocker. I still don't remember that whole day. I'm just remembering fragments of that day. A particular day that our youngest was young. And our daughter was still living with us. Our daughter was at work. I had my mom take care of our youngest, and I wanted to surprise my ex with a nice little date, so to speak, a romantic getaway for a couple of hours, and go to a lake that he didn't even know about. I had discovered through the job that I was at the time. Well, as I said, I don't remember all the details, but I remember that when we got to the lake, he was antsy, didn't want to stay there long. It took us 45 minutes to get there, and we stayed there maybe 20 minutes. And it was really quiet there. Nobody was there that day. There was a gentle rain coming down, and we were under a pavilion type thing. So it's not like we were getting wet. But he was getting all antsy and his leg was shaking, and he's like, I gotta get out of here. Come on, let's go. I'm hungry, so let's go eat. Not how I wanted to plan it, but okay. So we went at a local buffet to go eat, and with my ADHD self, I'm staring off, not even realizing who I was staring at, and he gets mad thinking I'm staring at some guy, and it's like, no, I didn't even realize I was staring, I'm sorry. And through the course of the night, he picked that to get into a big argument. And so the whole idea of that went down the tubes. And I didn't even realize that was a trauma thing or that it affected me. That's why I'm thinking there's more to the story than what I remember. Because what I remember was pretty bad. But I'm thinking there was more to it. But the victory behind that memory, which this is awesome. On that day that the memory came up, which I'm pretty sure was the anniversary of when it really happened, I had an unexpected day off from work. And I was already going through a bunch of mental stuff, and I got this urge to go to that lake, that very lake. And at the time I didn't know why, because the memory had not come up yet. And I'm like, you know what? You got this day off, you have nowhere else to go, you have a little extra gas, go to the lake. I barely remembered how to get there. I had to pull it up on Google Maps to remember the name of it even, because it had been so long. It was like, oh gosh, 13 years ago, 12, 13 years, something like that. So, I drove there, and it was so peaceful. There was only one lone fisherman out in the middle of the lake, and it was quiet. All I could hear were the birds, and I just felt everything just go out of me. And then that's when the memory came up, because my body was relaxed. And it felt good because I took back a memory. Now that place holds a good memory, because that's now my new happy place. And I go there if I have a little extra time or a little extra gas to settle my brain. So that's a good thing. But that's a little bit of what's been happening. And I'm told through other things that I'm looking up since these started happening, is that this is actually pretty typical. That once your body starts relaxing and your body knows you're safe, things start coming up, things that you don't even remember. And what helped me, God first and foremost, my faith in God and my church family, I'd be lost without them. But also what helped was the moment because now, of course, after 3.5 years, almost 3.5 years, I recognize signs in my body of something that's getting ready to come up. And so I start relaxing, my body's like, okay, reminding myself I'm safe, reminding myself that whatever's coming up is in the past and it's not applicable now. And then I've noticed when I relax myself, the memories come up quicker. And oh boy, sometimes they're blindsiding and it's like, oh my gosh, and it actually startles me as if it just happened. But then I walk through it, it's like, okay, yes, this happened, but it's not relevant now. It's not applicable to today. Today, you're this, you're safe, you're way better, you're not that person. And I've started talking to myself as my inner child, my little Penny. so to speak, where I say, okay, you're safe now. And I envision myself holding me as a child and protecting me, giving me the protection that I didn't feel I had at that point during whatever memory had come up. And that has helped tremendously. There's this, I feel like I'm going through a little bit of a reprieve right now. To my recollection, there aren't any traumaversaries coming up within the next couple of months that I can remember. Heaven knows that there will be some that pop up. So hopefully I'll be a little bit more consistent in my next couple of videos. So thank you guys for bearing with me and sticking with me. And you have a happy and safe 4th of July. Stay blessed.